Well, hello and welcome back. Let's start off here today with a subject that I love to talk about because to me it's exciting, and I hope that you may find this exciting as well. And that is that spirituality is an adult endeavor. It's for grown-ups. It's an adult endeavor. Why do I say that so often? Because we're responsible for our own awakening. Only we can choose in the present moment love or fear. The Holy Spirit, the ego, God, the ego, light, dark, life, death, self with a capital S, the lowercase s self, the individual self-sustaining survival unit, ego clinging machine, which sounds fun when you say it really quickly like that, but it's no fun at all. Only we can choose in the present moment, and it's our responsibility to choose the correct teacher. As you've seen, and if you're new to A Course in Miracles, it's a thought system. It's the thought system of the Holy Spirit. And we're invited to adopt it completely. The alternative is the thought system of the ego and individuality and continued suffering and strife and turmoil and warfare in extreme cases. We're invited to choose, and it's our responsibility, furthermore, to choose. Salvation, our awakening, is not the responsibility of some being or someone or something outside of us. There is nothing or no one outside of us. It's up to us to make this choice. It's powerful. When you begin to habitually choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit, your entire experience in this world changes. It does, it shifts. You begin to experience some of the shifts that this course is intended to bring about in the mind. So, we've moved on to a different section here of the text. We're still in chapter 2 of the text. We're now in part 6, fear and conflict. And as you might imagine, there's so much to say in the first 2 paragraphs that that's where we're going to spend our time today. Now, with the adult endeavor, we want to put responsibility onto something or someone else all the time. And that includes in spirituality. There's tremendous unconscious resistance to the truth, and deep down, we don't want to be responsible for our own awakening. We want Jesus to handle it. We want Buddha to handle it. We want someone else to handle it. We want to just do our thing here in the world as we've always done, ego clinging, run amok, separation thoughts, one after another, the judgment, the blame, the condemnation, and we want to go through and do this for 40, 50 years, however much time we have left running around appearing to be this thing, right? Whatever time we have left here in the world, we want to just keep doing our thing and not do the hard shit. Yeah, let someone else take care of it. Well, that's not how it works. I mean, if you go in for the idea of rebirth, which you don't have to do, by the way, it doesn't matter if you believe that's possible or not. It doesn't really matter. We're never actually in a body in the first place. So when we appear to have one serial dream after another, which we call a lifetime, it's just something that appears to take place. Chances are you're interested in spirituality because you know deep down, you've accepted on some level that there's more to it than just the physical body. There's more to life than just the few decades that this thing appears to be here. So the responsibility is ours. We're responsible for our own awakening. And yes, we have tremendous help and assistance in the practice of true forgiveness. It is our inner teacher that does the bulk of the work. We're simply responsible for forgiving what appears in our lives, whatever makes us uncomfortable. Anything other than a peaceful feeling is an opportunity for forgiveness. We forgive what appears on the screen to us, and our inner teacher does the rest. So let's talk about some of the adult responsibility that we do have as students of this course, as spiritual seekers, as spiritual people, as people on a spiritual path. Whatever language you're most comfortable using, this course is universal in theme and application, so it's not a religion, thank God. We don't need another one of those, do we? So it's a self-study course. So use the terminology that you feel most comfortable with. They're just words, after all. So we tend to see fear in this world. We tend to see fear as being a reflex. It's involuntary. We have fight or flight mechanisms built in. We have adrenaline built in to the system. Certain things make us instantly jumpy. And of course, there are people that seem more jumpy than others. Yet in some circumstances, we're just as jumpy as someone who is perpetually anxious. This seems to be involuntary. And then in the second sentence of paragraph 1, Jesus says that it's really the constructive acts that should be involuntary. The constructive acts should be involuntary. What that means is we should place everything under our inner teacher's control and guidance. Give everything over to your inner teacher in your life. Now, there is functionally here, for the purposes of this video series and for this course in general, there's functionally no difference between the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Jesus is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. So whether you take Jesus as your inner teacher or the Holy Spirit as your inner teacher or both as your inner teacher, or whether you have another inner teacher, a guide or guides, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Use whichever term you're most comfortable with, because there's only oneness, perfect oneness anyway, so they're not separate. If you and I aren't separate, how can Jesus and the Holy Spirit be separate? There's no separation of any kind. We are invited to place our inner teacher in control. Give everything over to our inner teacher and let him direct everything. Jesus tells us that he can direct everything involuntary. In other words, miracle-minded reflexes, forgiving rather than blaming. I mean, maybe you've been doing this for a while and you're noticing that whereas in a certain situation you would have lashed out in blame, you now forgive. Or you've opened up a gap where you can choose to forgive rather than the habitual patterns and tendencies of blame and condemnation that you used to have. Maybe you have seen that. If you haven't yet, these are some things that you'll be looking for as you go forward on the path. So the adultness here is that Jesus can help us so much. Our inner teacher can help us so much. We give everything over to him. There's tremendous and mighty assistance available. In true forgiveness, as practiced here in this course, we're responsible for forgiving what appears in our lives, just what appears on the screen. The Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, does the rest. In other words, it's our inner teacher that heals the deep unconscious guilt. It's unconscious. We're not aware of it. Our inner teacher is aware of it. So what we do is we forgive what appears in the world, in our lives, and our inner teacher does the deeper inner healing. That's one way that you can choose to look at the famous first line of the course. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is, in fact, just the same as any other, because we don't know when we're forgiving that something on the surface that seems small or even trivial. We don't know what that corresponds to unconsciously. We could very well be saving ourselves many, many years of suffering. So, adult responsibility, we're the ones that need to correct our fear. In paragraph 2, there's some more adult responsibility language here. When we behave egregiously, when we go off the handles and blame, judge, behave badly, whatever that looks like, we don't excuse our poor behavior as saying, yeah, I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help it that I smacked this person. I couldn't help it that I raised my voice and shouted and scared a little child. Right? I can't help it. I couldn't help it that I did this. I couldn't help it that I committed a crime. I couldn't help it that I used again. Right? Whatever it is that appears on the surface, we don't excuse egregious and improper behavior, do we, in saying, I couldn't help it. So Jesus asks us, we don't condone behavior in the world like that by saying we can't help it. So why do we condone insane thinking? We don't condone the insane behavior. Why do we condone insane thinking? Because the behavior is not independent. It's the thinking that leads the behavior. It's mind that leads to action in the world. It's the cause that leads to the effect. It's the movie projector that projects the appearances on the screen. Mind is the cause. That's why this course is a course in mind training. It focuses on the mind. There are plenty of activities in the spiritual marketplace that do not, that focus entirely on the physical world. Perhaps you know of many of them. This course is not among them. It's a worthwhile question. Why do we condone insane thinking? Thinking that our brother has done something to us when in fact he has not. There's no self and other, remember. So how can anyone actually harm anyone else in truth? Why do we condone insane thinking? Right here in the middle of paragraph 2, we're told that we're responsible for what we think. You are responsible for what you think. Yes, you're responsible for what you do. Yeah. You're responsible for what you think before that, because what you think determines what you do. Always, always. That's the way that works. Mind, remember, is the cause. What happens in the physical world is the effect. We don't awaken by simply exchanging one effect for another, by getting a new and shiny effect. We change our mind. That's what leads us out of the wheel of suffering, the hamster wheel of suffering. And I think it's brilliant that in Eastern traditions, they call it samsara, which literally means the wheel. And it's a round of cyclic existence, as they say in Buddhism. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's insanity, according to Einstein's definition. That's brilliant, isn't it? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting to be awakened, or exchanging one shiny object here in the world for another shiny object, somehow expecting that's going to make you happy. But you're just replacing images in the world with a different image, and you're not doing anything about the projector, the cause, the mind. Change your mind. Change your mind. That's what we're invited to do here in this course. And yes, we are 100% responsible for what we think. What we do follows that. An adult endeavor, if I've ever seen one. So we're invited to place what we think under Jesus's guidance, under the Holy Spirit's guidance. Place your thoughts under the guidance of your inner teacher. That's what we're invited to do. This is how you navigate it. Place your thoughts under the guidance of your inner teacher and get out of your own way. You're setting the ego aside every time you remember to do this. So, a couple of quick words as we wrap up. If you're new to this course, it's been said that this is the most radical teaching in history. I find absolutely no reason to disagree with that. It is. The central teaching of this course is there is no world. There is no world. You are not a body. Never have been. So we cannot expect that everyone's going to agree when I turn on the camera and microphone and share this course with you. You can choose to agree or disagree with anything that I have to say. What's talking to you is this is just an image on the screen here. What you see is a projected image on your screen, on your device. Now, what resonates with you, what you're hearing, is your inner teacher. It's your inner teacher that inspires you to practice. Pure non-duality is the shortest line in all spirituality. Why? It is not about manifesting your desires in the physical world. Now, you may end up, as the result of your forgiveness, having those desires met, but that's not the point. We're invited to want the peace of God, not another Mercedes. Nothing against a Mercedes. Look, if you came up to me and delivered me the keys to a brand new black shiny Mercedes, I wouldn't tell you no, especially if you made all the payments. right? Nothing against having fun, hot, shiny things in the world, but that's not the point. This is a course in mind training, so we're each invited to ask ourselves, do we in fact want the peace of God and nothing else? It's an adult question of, well, let's put it this way. How badly do you want it? Are you willing to set your individuality aside and accept truth as it is, which is that there is no world. We're not human beings. We're not individuals. We're not our name. We're not our title. We're not our job, our gender, our national origin. None of that. We're spirit, one with God. And are you willing to accept truth just as it is? We're invited again to place everything we think under our inner teacher's control and relax and trust that our inner teacher has got us. He's got our back because he does. And how can you know this for sure? You guessed it. Practice. Do it. All right. So thank you all very much for joining me and for all of your comments and questions here. It's a pleasure for me to be able to offer these teachings to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. This is the subscription button right here. It's the little red arrow, and I'd love to have you. Thank you for all of you who may have subscribed recently. There've been a number of you in the past couple of weeks. So thank you so much for joining me again. Subscription button's over here, and I will see you here again, and we'll go really deep because it's fun, and that's where awakening is. Yeah, the deep stuff. Welcome. I'm glad you're joining me.